Now the Premier League is back. 2 games have been played and the top of the table shows us Manchester City, Arsenal and a surprise to many people, Brighton. Last night, Arsenal got a good win at Crystal Palace, a 1-0 win. Difficult place to go. And we're joined now by John Giles and Liam Brady to discuss what's been happening over the last couple of weeks. Liam, I'll start with you. Crystal Palace, not an easy place to go, particularly early in the season. They have a go, but Arsenal survived and got the 3 points, which is huge.
Yeah, it was a big result, Damon. I think we know Roy Hodgson many years now. His teams are always very well organised, and Crystal Palace got a lot of bodies behind the ball and made it difficult for Arsenal to create chances. But in the first half, I think Nketiah had 2 really good chances where they did break Palace down. They should have been ahead. They were the better team. They did get a break with the penalty when Nketiah was fouled by the goalkeeper. 1-0 doesn't look that impressive, Eamon, but I think it's a very good result against a very well organised Crystal Palace team.
Yep. John, we were talking during the game. We watched it. You tipped me a 1-0 win for Arsenal, and it's a valuable 3 points, especially early in the season against a team. That stadium has a particular vibe to it. The crowd make a lot of noise and the players respond. And as Liam said, Roy Hodgson knows what he's doing, particularly when it comes to stopping better teams play.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, Arsenal did very well. It's difficult to play against teams like that. As you say, with Roy Hodgson, he's famous over the years for defending, particularly doesn't give much away. And Arsenal deserved it, I must say. I mean, they had a couple of chances early on. But it's one of those matches that you're delighted to get away with the 3 points.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what they did, you know, yeah, definitely.
Now, I want to ask both of you. I'll start with you, John, about Declan Rice. I think he's an outstanding player. I really do. I think he was a great buy for Arsenal. So I'll put my own cards on the table. Primarily, I think he is a defensive-minded midfield player, reads the game really well, breaks up play. But he has been criticised for not getting enough goals and also for, not looking to get forward as much as people believe. The critics, I wouldn't mind Roy Keane. Keane has issues with Declan since they were both, since Rice was in the Irish squad. But Graham Souness is another person I do have respect for, and he says Declan Rice is short because he doesn't get enough goals. What's your view on it?
Well, I think what Graham said was that great players, there's three things that they need, Eamon. You know, score goals, stop goals, and control the middle of the field. And he said he's missing on 2 of them.
Right.
I would agree with him up to a point, Eamon. I don't think Declan controls the game as much as he could do, or what he actually does. You know, he covers the ground great. I think he's very good when the opposition have the ball. He does okay more than okay when he has the ball, but he doesn't score goals either. Now, we spoke before the match, and I was disappointed with him recently because he seemed to be playing on the left-hand side of midfield, where you can't do what needs to be done, what Graham Souness is saying. Now, I noticed last night, I said it to you, I didn't say it to you, Jim, I just noticed during the game, he actually played in a central midfield position last night, which is much easier for him to play and to do the things that we would expect him to do. You know, if you get a right-sided midfield player, then that's what they do. A left-sided midfield, that's what they do. But if you want a midfield player, they have to play in the central midfield position. And last night he did, and I thought he played very well last night. I think he's a very good player, but he's not going to be the player that Graham Souness would want him to be.
Yeah. Liam, you know, both you and John were great midfield players, and you've seen him up close. He is trying to adapt to a new club, new colleagues. What's your view on this debate there is about him?
Well, he cost an awful lot of money, Eamon, and I suppose that's thrown
Yeah, 110 million, I think.
The spotlight on him. But he's a hugely reliable player, you know.
Yes.
He never goes missing. He's always there for you, you know. Okay, he might fall a little bit short in what Graham and John's just highlighted there, running the game. But I thought last night some of his passing, it was good, over 30, 40 yards. He was switching play. He did get in the box. And funny enough, when Souness highlighted the fact that he didn't get many goals, he started to get a few for West Ham towards the tail end of the season. So it's perhaps something he could add to his game. He nearly scored in the first match at home in the first game of the season. The keeper made a great save. I think he's only going to get better. He's young.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is he's hugely reliable, much more so than Xhaka, who we had in midfield last year.
Yes.
You know, I think he's going to be a real asset to the likes of Odegaard and Partey and people like that, people who are going to be playing alongside him in midfield are going to benefit from his presence.
Yes, and that word was the one I was going to use, John, the word that Liam's just used, and it's presence. He has a presence about him. There's a confidence about him. He reads the game really well. You know there's someone there, and I thought Arsenal lacked that. I think all the best sides do have it. And he provides it for Arsenal. And as Liam said, he will get better the more accustomed he is to being in that team.
Well, sure, yeah, I would expect him to, Eamon. But up to last night, where he was playing on the left side of midfield, certainly,
yes,
I thought his positional sense was poor. Playing in that position, you know, he was like, instead of coming towards the ball or back from the ball to get in possession of the ball, he did it last night and he did it well, but he was playing in the central position rather than the left-hand side of the position, where it's difficult to do it from there. So he is a very, very good player, but he's not the player that's going to get on the ball and control the ball and make fantastic passes from the middle of the field.
Yeah.
He just isn't. But he's a very, very athletic player. He covers the ground well. He defends quite well. He attacks quite well. And he will be and he was very good last night. But I think he will get better if they continue to play him in the middle of the field, not the left side or the right-hand side for Arsenal.
Liam, just a final thought about Declan Rice. Going into a big game against, say, Manchester City or Liverpool, or one of the other contenders, you wouldn't be worried that he'd disappear. I mean, he is a player that would give you presence and that would be involved in a game of that nature. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's right. I think his temperament's very good. You know, he doesn't get nervous, I don't think. I think he believes in himself. And he'll always be there for his teammates, and his work rate is really, really top notch. So I wouldn't have any fear for him going into the big games. You know, not at all. I think he's going to be a huge player for Arsenal now over the next few seasons. I think he showed at West Ham in the fact that he's only a young lad. You know, he was a leader of that team. He was the leader of the team. And he pulled West Ham out of trouble last year, and they ended up getting a trophy. And it was mainly, not totally down to Rice, but he was a huge part of it. And I think playing in a better team now that he is with Arsenal, with better players around him, he's only going to improve, and Arsenal will get better for the fact that he's there.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. John, let me ask you about Manchester City. They beat Newcastle 1-0. And Newcastle went there and they put up a performance. There was a lot of resistance. City have lost a couple of players. They've lost Gundogan, and Mahrez has gone to Saudi Arabia. Gundogan's gone to Barcelona. So they don't look quite as formidable as they did. What did you make of the City effort against Newcastle, who, you know, haven't actually gone mad with the Saudi money yet?
Well, they've done okay. I think he's done a big job, Eddie Howe. I mean, with the players that he's bought, he hasn't gone paying fortunes, but he's a lot of good players there, and he's made great progress. They're challenging for the league, and quite rightly so. So he's done a big job with Newcastle. There's no doubt. On the Manchester City situation, I mean, they've got Foden now playing in midfield, and I think he's going to be a top player. Now,
he only played 17 games. He only started 17 games last year. He was kind of left out a lot.
Well, yeah, he didn't play as many as he should, but they were winning matches left, right, and centre. I mean, he's got to step up now because they've lost the players that you just mentioned.
Yes.
Now the problem is he old enough? Is he mature enough as a player to do what needs to be done? I mean, I think he has the ability, but it's a very, very difficult position for a young fella in the middle of the field to do what needs to be done.
Yes.
I think he's good. I think. City sold the players, you're right, but they played very, very well the other day. It was a big match against Newcastle. They deserved to win. Foden did well again, so they've started the season well again. Now, whether they get new players in or not remains to be seen, Eamon. But they go for that Lucas Paqueta, is that his name, Eamon?
Yeah, the guy at West Ham.
West Ham. Well, I think they've had a blessing in not getting him.
Yeah,
I think he's one of the most indisciplined players, if that's the word, I've ever seen.
Yeah,
he's going to be big trouble for David Moyes. This fella, I think he has ability, all right. But look, David Moyes hailed him for his character. That's his business. But I didn't see. I thought his character in the match for West Ham the other day was dreadful, and he's going to. I think he's going to get into big trouble. But getting back to Manchester City, I think got a break there in not getting him. Now they might sign another one or two players anyway, City, Eamon. But they've made a good start. There was a big match against Newcastle the other day. Newcastle were very good. City beat them. And it was a very good game, but deserved to beat them. So they played very well in the matches so far. Whether they can continue in that way remains to be seen.
Yeah, Liam, De Bruyne is going to be out, they say, for 4 months. He obviously has torn his hamstring, which is a very, very serious injury, really. And they're going to need the qualities he brings, mainly creating chances. And they've lost a couple of players as well. What's your view now? I mean, particularly with Arsenal seemingly getting off to a good start, likely to be in contention. City are obviously going to be in contention. What's your view of their team now, without De Bruyne in particular? And also, he seems to have a thing about Bernardo Silva. He didn't start against Newcastle, and he didn't start in a lot of games last year, and I think he's one of their very best players.
I think he might be injured at the moment, Eamon, to be quite honest, because he's not. He wasn't even on the bench, Bernardo Silva.
That's right.
So he's a very, very good player. There was talk about that he might be going as well, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But he's a top player, Bernardo Silva, and as we know, Kevin De Bruyne is the same. But I think Manchester City have already made two really good signings, like this Guardiola. The Croatian defender at the back is an absolute brilliant player. You remember him in the World Cup for Croatia. He was very, very good. He could break out with the ball. He was comfortable on the ball. But he's also a big, strong defender. They haven't conceded a goal in 2 matches and didn't look like conceding, Eamon. They're very, very strong. They didn't have Stones either the other day. He had a really good season. So I think the squad is rock solid. They may, as John said, go and buy another player. But when they get these guys back, they're going to be formidable. But we're talking about Phil Foden. It is a great opportunity for him to show what he can do. And he did really, really well against Newcastle. I thought he was man of the match. He was excellent. So they're going to be, they set the benchmark for all the teams, Eamon, and they've got off to a flyer, haven't they? 2 wins.
They have, yeah.
I was a bit disappointed in Newcastle. They looked great in the first game against Aston Villa. They smashed them 5, and I was expecting a bit more, but they were looked as if they set out for a 0-0 and never really tried to break City down until City went ahead. So. A bit disappointed in Newcastle, but very, very impressed again with the way Manchester City have started.
Now let me stay with you, Liam, because the other impressive start to the season is Brighton. They really have done exceptionally well. They scored a lot of goals. And on Saturday, They really wiped out Wolves. Now, we saw Wolves play Manchester United last week, and they were very, very good. Brighton had killed them. And this is despite the fact that they've sold players, a lot of players, including Caicedo, who went to Chelsea and immediately gave a penalty away at the weekend. They have this lad who scored a fantastic goal at the weekend, Mitoma. Their manager is Roberto Di Serbi. They keep selling players, Liam, and they keep finding even better players. It's a great story, isn't it?
It's a fantastic story, and it's all really down to the leadership of Tony Bloom, the chairman. He's a bit of a genius when it comes to mathematics, Eamon. You know, I think he's made a lot of money gambling, knowing the odds better than anybody else. And he's brought that to his transfer signings. You know, I think he goes into tremendous detail before he signs a player. He's also got a club in Belgium where some of these players come from South America or from Africa or from Asia, and they try out and they're followed in a better league. The Belgian league wouldn't be a bad league, Eamon. So he really, really does his homework. And as you say, they've sold a number of players. But this Mitoma, what a goal that was. It reminded me of George Best, you know, picking the ball up on the halfway line, beating 3-4 players and just slotting it past the goalkeeper. Good story as well for Ireland because Ferguson's there. Although he didn't start at the weekend, he got a goal in his first match against Luton Town. So, you know, he's in the right hands with this Roberto Di Serbi. Not only do they find players, but they find coaches as well. Like they gave Potter his chance, didn't they, in the Premiership? And now they've brought this coach from Italy who was, who actually improved things last year. But he has lost a couple of good players. But they've got this Mitoma. They've got Enciso. He looks a player. I think he might be Peruvian. He's come in. They've really done wonders. And well, they haven't really played anybody yet. Luton Town would have been a handy one in the first game, but to beat a Wolves team who I thought were very unlucky against Manchester United a week or so ago, they should have beaten Manchester United at Old Trafford. So that was a really good win for Brighton and deservedly top of the table. Scored 8 goals already in 2 games.
Yeah. John, did you see that goal Mitoma scored? It was fantastic.
Yeah, they're brilliant, Eamon. I just wrote down
three guys trying to kick him.
A bit unbelievable, as Liam says there. I just wrote something down. Sell your best players, get better.
It's good motto.
Nobody's ever done it before. I've never seen anybody sell the players that they've sold over the last 5 years at least.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That because normally when you sell your best players over the years, in any club, sell your best players, you're going to go down. You're going to lose out. But they're putting really, as Liam says, they're getting the young players in from different parts of the world is a real winner for them. They've done brilliantly and played brilliantly as well.
Yes, it's great to see a well-run club, successful, a small club in the history of the game, but now becoming a force and a presence in the Premier League. John, I want to ask you about Manchester United. Spurs have a new coach, Postecoglou. He did really well at Celtic. He turned things around there, and he's now taken up the reins, to use the cliche, at Spurs. And, of course, it's a Spurs with no Harry Kane, who had a great game, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw it. I watched it on Friday night.
Yeah, I taped it, Eamon. Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, he was superb. He made a goal. He scored a goal, dropped deep. It was a masterclass in centre-forward play.
Yeah.
But they beat Manchester United on Sunday, and Manchester United were worse on Sunday than they were at home to Wolves, which was pretty bad in itself. What's going on at United, John? Why didn't they buy Harry Kane?
Well, why didn't they do a lot of things, Eamon? For Manchester United to be in the position they're in, they've had a few managers over the last few years, and it never seems to get better. I think with Ten Hag, it looked like he last season they won one of the cups and finished third in the league game. So you would have thought anyway they're on their way. But looking at them, especially against Spurs the other day, they were back to where they were 2 years ago. They were dreadful, absolutely dreadful. They were lucky against Wolves the week before, as we saw, and you mentioned there. So I don't know what's going on. I mean, Spurs are a new manager again. They've sold Harry Kane, and they haven't really bought a lot of players in. You know, I don't know. I just see Ten Hag on the touchline, but they were dreadful. Eamon, you know, you would think this season, new season, having finished up well last season, they'd be on the way. Spurs, a new team, having lost Harry Kane and that. Early on in the game, I thought Spurs, Man Utd were going to do them. But the longer the game went on, the worse they got. Dreadful stuff.
Yeah, midfield is a massive problem at the moment. Now, I welcomed Casemiro. I thought he was a good buy. He paid 60 million for him, but he's got 5 Champions League medals with Real Madrid, and he made a very good start at United. But he's in a midfield 3, Liam, and on one side of him he's got Fernandes, who isn't really a midfield player, and the other side he's got Mason Mount. So he's standing in the middle of the pitch, and people are just running past him. They got a major problem.
Yeah, I thought they were very, very poor against Wolves. Very fortunate to get a victory. Wolves missed so many chances. Actually, Onana, the goalkeeper, one of the new signings by Ten Hag, was very, very good and saved them against Wolves. But as you say...
Until the penalty incident, Liam, would you agree that was a clear-cut penalty?
Remind me, Eamon, which one?
Onana, late in the game, he came out and took someone's head off.
I thought that was a definite penalty, yeah.
That would have been...
understand that. Like, if that takes place anywhere else in the pitch, you know, he gets a yellow card. Or he gets a yellow card. That decision really went in their favour. But the amount of times, as you said, the Wolves midfield players just burst into the open spaces, and Casemiro couldn't cope. Well, he can't cope because Mason Mount he's not a midfield player as such. And Bruno Fernandes, the captain of Manchester United, which I find is an absolute ridiculous decision to have him as captain. He's not an example for his teammates. He's not an example for anyone how to be a captain of the team. And that would put huge doubts in my mind about Ten Hag if he sees Bruno Fernandes or wants to persist with him as captain. But they were totally empty in the midfield against Wolves, and in the match against Spurs, I'd have to say the first half hour they played really well. They made a couple of goals. I thought Spurs were a bit nervy. They didn't look like they didn't look like they were at ease. And both Rashford and Bruno Fernandes had great chances to put United ahead with headers. And, you know, goals change games. And had they got a goal then, it might have been a different story in the second half. But they came out the second half and didn't really feature. You know, Anthony hit the post, a little bit lucky. But, you know, I'm looking at the players, and I think Roy Keane was interviewed afterwards, and he was asked, well, can they mount a challenge to Manchester City or for the title this year? And Roy Keane just dismissed them, and I would be of the same view. They can't possibly go close to winning the league with that team.
No. John, just a final point about United. They were supposed to be selling the club, the Glazers. That hasn't happened. Why wouldn't a club like Manchester United, with its ambitions and its history, go in for Harry Kane? And it looks like they're kind of a bit yellow pack at the moment, all over the pitch. I mean, they're not thinking like a big club, are they?
No, it depends who's doing it, Eamon, as well.
Yeah.
You know, is Ten Hag doing it? You never know at these big clubs. You know, they have their people there that's, you know, the director of football or whatever they call them. You know, it's very difficult to know exactly who's doing the business. Now, if it's Ten Hag is doing the business, he's not doing a very good job on it. I mean, you know, he's an experienced manager now, and getting the players in and making. Apart from getting the players in, again, Liam mentioned Fernandes. Fernandes is captain.
Yeah, and temperamentally, he's not just he's not there, is he? He just
Never. He's always moaning at the referee. I think the new rules, he got a yellow card just for talking to the referee, but he's at it all the time. If somebody makes, if he makes a mistake, he's always looking around, to blame somebody. And he's captain. He should be setting an example for everybody. So, like with Ten Hag, like even he's been there long enough now to get a grip of whatever is there. And against Spurs, I mean, it was just like a new team again. And, after more than 12 months in the job, to get it organised and get the effort, which is the starting point, they were back to square one against Wolves.
Yeah.
And Spurs. And Spurs are a new team.
Yeah, they just don't have a midfield at the moment. And Fred is gone, I think. And McTominay and Fred and Casemiro, at least you had a presence. You'd win balls. You'd put pressure on your opponents. But
he's left Ericsson out of the team, and I still think he's the best midfield player that United have got.
With the ball at his feet,
With the ball at his feet, Eamon, but he's bought Mason Mount for a lot of money. I think he is buying the players, John, by the way.
Okay. That's even more slim.
Anthony, the winger, he's from Ajax. He had him at Ajax. He had the goalkeeper at Ajax a few years ago. He went off to Inter Milan and brought him. And I think the central defender, the little guy, kicking his own goal. He came from Ajax as well. So I do think he is buying the players, but I would have serious doubts about his judgment.
Yeah, I just say to you both, lads, if you agree, I think Anthony's not very good, Liam, and I think the other young lad, Garnacho, that's playing on the left, isn't very good either.
Well, and throw Rashford into the mix. There's no real.
He's not a centre forward, Liam, is he?
But there's no football intelligence involved there. You don't see a real thinking kind of player, a guy. They're all instinctive. They're trying to beat players and get shots in. I don't see a real brainy player.
Right. Let me ask John about Marcus Rashford. I think he scored 28 goals last year. I don't think he's a player who can play in an orthodox centre-forward role. I think he needs to be on the left, using his pace, coming inside on his right foot. But I don't think he has the football intelligence to play as a centre-forward. I think you said the same thing to me on Sunday. Yeah,
but he can have a go, Eamon.
Yeah, but it's hard as a centre-forward if there's nothing to go at. If you're in a bad team...
I'm talking about this when you haven't got the ball, excuse me, and you're chasing around and having a go and really get at people, Eamon. You can't sort of have the sulks because you're not getting the balls that you want or the supply that you want.
Yeah.
He should be enthusiastic in like you see all the great players have played in different positions at different times, but they're having a go all the time, Eamon. Like on Sunday, he was dreadful. He was just sauntering around. He wasn't having a go. He wasn't putting the team under pressure. So, like with any players or team spirit, you don't need to be playing in your best position. Everybody wants to, but it doesn't mean you're going to get the sulks because you're not, or if you're a certain type of player. He's a big, strong guy that can put people under pressure, but you don't see him doing it, Eamon.
Okay.
But that's a lot of that's down to the manager as well.
Right. Finally, both you, John, and Liam. Liam, I'll start with you. It's good to see Pochettino back in the Premier League. I think he's a great coach. And I think he had a large part to play in making Harry Kane a player. He went to Spurs in 2014, and Harry had been out on loan at Millwall and places like that where no good players go. But, John, I'll ask you this first because we watched and we were talking to each other during the Chelsea game at the weekend, and West Ham gave them a hiding, really, 3-1. But there was one player in particular you picked out. Now, they've spent $1 billion on players, and there are too many players there, clearly.
Yeah.
Enzo Fernandez, Enzo is on his shirt. He missed a penalty in the end. You think he's a real good player and will show in time?
Yeah, I think he's a real midfielder, Eamon. He's one of the few around who can get on the ball, come deep. I think he's only 22, but he links the back to the front. In other words, he gets in the position to receive the ball from the defenders and turns on it and picks out the right ball at the right time most of the time. And he doesn't do it all the time. But I think he's the best midfielder to do the job that I've seen in the Premiership at the moment. Unfortunately, he missed a pen and it finished up a disappointing day for Chelsea. Still a lot of work to do for Pochettino, Eamon.
Yeah, Liam, just a final question for you about Caicedo. He's the player that Liverpool were trying to sign from Brighton. He wanted to go to Chelsea, so he left Liverpool in the lurch at the last minute. He went to Chelsea and gave a penalty away on Sunday when he came on. Have you seen much of him, and how good is he?
Yeah, he's very good, Eamon. Yeah, he's a top player. He's going to give that midfield perhaps the drive that they missed since Kante.
Yes,
got injured and then has left. But he'd be in that mould for me. One of those all-round midfield players can do everything really. I think he will be a real asset. But, it's another new team again, Eamon. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
The lad Jackson up front, Chukwuemeka, who scored a very good goal. This is his first season there. Gusto, Disasi. It's a totally new team again.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy when you said they've spent nearly £1 billion, on a team last year, and a lot of them are not figuring. I do agree with John. I thought Fernandes in his time at Chelsea after the World Cup was very, very disappointing. But It was a mess, the club.
Yes.
And I think having an Argentinian manager with him there is going to be an enormous help to him.
Right.
And I think against Liverpool in the first game of the season, he was really, really good. And he was good again in the game against West Ham. But I think Chelsea will probably be out of the title race, Eamon, because Pochettino's simply trying to find his best team.
Yep. And they're out in the corridor at the training ground because there's no room. Sean, there's no room in the dressing room.
And they've got 2 dressing rooms, Eamon.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Anyway, grateful. We never got to Liverpool, who were 1-0 down to Bournemouth after 3 minutes, but recovered. But we'll talk about them next week. We're very grateful to John Giles and to Liam Brady, 2 of our greatest ever players and 2 of our best judges.